Welcome to the CSR Fundamentals Awareness module. In the next few videos, we'll go over a few key principles of the Ethics Charter, as well as run through some real-life scenarios. The first thing you should know is that CSR stands for Corporate Social Responsibility, and the main guidelines are in our Ethics Charter. The principles of this document are focused on reducing the social and environmental impacts of our company. But we didn't make the CSR up from nothing, and here's where your first question comes in. Are the CSR principles based on the Human Rights Declaration, the UN Global Compact, OECD principles for multinational companies, laws and regulations from various countries concerning anti-corruption, or is it all of the above? The correct answer is all of the above. Each of these documents were used to draft the CSR section of our Ethics Charter. Since we've mentioned that charter so many times now, it seems important to let you know where it is. At the completion of this module, you can take a look on SensiWave and see the Ethics Charter for yourself. Go ahead and pull the charter up when you finish this video. We'll be referring to it in the rest of the modules. And while you're looking there, also be sure to take a look at our Export Control and Trade Compliance document. So now you know where the CSR comes from and where to find the Ethics Charter. In the next video, we'll talk about potential ways the company could be corrupted and how to avoid that. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so let's imagine you've got a friend, Antoine. Antoine is a business partner for Idemia. Over the years, the two of you have gotten closer, and he wants to take you out for dinner at a restaurant called Epicure. He makes a point to insist that he is going to be the one to pay for everyone's meal. You're researching the menu online and you notice the restaurant has $4 next to the name. It's way expensive. Since Antoine is a partner for Idemia, you feel a little bit uncomfortable about accepting the invitation. Should you accept the invitation but explain it can only be the one time? Should you refuse the invitation without giving a reason? Or should you explain that you can't go because you don't want this encounter to affect the business decisions? The right answer is to explain you can't accept the gift. The problem here is not the offer, but the amount of the offer. And if you look at the Ethics Charter, it's clear that refusing the offer protects us from any accusations of bribery. That's why we've got a compliance program to protect us of any potential bribes. Since Epicure is quite far above the average cost of a meal, it might trigger a conflict of interest if you want to award Antoine with a contract, even if you've both long forgotten the dinner. There's no need to ruin any friendships, of course. You can still head to dinner, so long as you explain you'll be picking up your own check. For further information, go ahead and download the Supplier Conduct Code found in SensiWave. That wraps up this scenario on corruption and bribery. In the next module, we'll take a look at a different topic, landfill waste, and what to do with all that trash. We all know we are supposed to conserve energy. We should turn off the lights, recycle, shut down the PC when it's not in use, print in black ink, etc., etc. And then there's landfill waste, another topic entirely. Idemia has chosen reducing our landfill waste as a top priority, but do you know why? Is it because it costs a lot to landfill waste? Because landfill waste is a burden for future generations? Or because it's just really easy to reduce? The right answer is because landfill waste is a real burden for future generations. That's why in most cases, our factory waste is recycled or reused. We've dedicated ourselves to the main eco-habits which reduce the impact of what we do on our communities, environment, and ultimately the planet. To read more, you can find a link to our environmental policy in SensiWave. In the next video, we'll talk about unfair competition as well as how and why we should avoid it. I'll see you in that video. One day you're hanging around the office after hours and you hear a conversation between two of your coworkers, Agnes and Anna. You hear Agnes say to Anna that she's organized a conference call with a competitor in order to align prices for the preparation of a large tender. She mentions that they only need to exchange views on the pricing list. Anna seems shocked. She reminds Agnes you can't switch pricing lists unless the deal legitimates it, and if it's an exceptional circumstance. Agnes holds her ground, saying it's not a big deal. So who's right? Is Agnes right for saying it's not a big deal to swap pricing? Is Anna right in saying you're only allowed to do that in exceptional circumstances? Are they both right, or are they both wrong? The correct answer is they're both wrong. It's totally forbidden to discuss prices with competitors. This is called unfair competition, and it's against the law. In the ethics charter, we make a point never to disclose any agreement with competitors in order to reduce competition. In addition, we don't make any unfair comparison based on wrong or misleading information. Now that you've briefed on unfair competition, let's move on to the next module, lost time injury. I'll see you in the next video. In this section, we're going to talk a little about lost time injury. Lost time injury, or LTI, is essentially a way to measure the level of protection of employees' health and safety, especially in manufacturing sites. Health and safety are a basic right of employees and a matter that IDEMIA is strongly committed to, including protection against psychological disorders. That's a little bit about why LTI exists, but what exactly is it? Is it the ratio of days lost compared to a total number of days worked when an employee has been injured on the job? Is it the ratio of lost working days when an employee is not doing his job, whatever the reason? Or is it the regular time lost in any factory due to people not present? The correct answer is the ratio of days lost compared to the total number of days worked when an employee has been injured while on the job. Let's say Juan works in the factory and there's a cable on the floor. Juan is a little absorbed in his task and doesn't see it, so he stumbles and falls on the ground, hurting his back. It's not too bad, but the doctor says he'll need a couple days to recover. This will impact the LTI rate of the factory. The LTI rate being the number of days lost in the pro rata of the total number of days worked for 1 million hours worked. To learn more, you can find IDEMIA's health and safety policy on, guess where? SensiWave. In the next lesson, we'll do a brief reminder about data protection, so I hope you were paying attention during the GDPR module. Okay, Anna and Agnes are at it again. This time, you overhear the two of them chatting about a German bank customer, Direct Gebrüder. Bank subcontracts the card personalization process to us, and they're looking to do an audit on our processes. Agnes says that the maintenance, hotline, and backup of that data takes place in Morocco, but Anna says there's an issue there. She believes the data was never supposed to leave the European Union since it was gathered there. Agnes says it doesn't matter because the data is password protected. So who's right this time? Is Agnes right to say it's okay that the data is password protected since it's overseas? Or is Anna right when she says all that data needs to stay in the EU where it came from? The answer is Anna's right. Agnes has sure got some wild ideas. It's totally forbidden to transfer personal data outside the European Union, and even to access those data from a country outside the EU. There is one instance where this is allowed, and it requires two things. One, the customer has to allow it, and two, the transfer must be legally framed. For instance, when the transfer is achieved in a country considered adequate by the European Commission, or when the company and the company importing the data have signed binding rules, IDEMIA has a data protection officer who is responsible for the conformity and the security of the private data we hold. But if you hear a conversation like Anna and Agnes's, don't be afraid to speak up. In our final section, we'll talk about human right and the supply chain. I'll see you in the last video. Okay, the last section. We'll jump straight into the scenario. Let's pretend you've been working for years with a supplier that you're absolutely in love with, Stealing Along Ltd. They get the orders quicker to you than anyone else, the delivery is always on time. And then a coworker comes to tell you the news. Stealing Along has been paying less than minimum wage to their workers. And as a matter of fact, it also looks like they've blackmailed some of the employees into staying with them by withholding passports. Which of these is the best way to respond to your friend? Mind him stealing along is a good supplier, and the treatment of their employees is not your concern. Do you tell him you're thinking about renegotiating, but remind him that regardless, you can't change the situation? Or do you simply end the contract immediately, since there looks to be some forced labor here? The right answer, as I hope you guessed, is end the contract immediately. This is forced labor, and it would be incredibly risky for us to contract with such suppliers applying these practices. Here at IDEMIA, we respect all regulations and laws on slavery and human trafficking, and that means we must monitor our impact throughout the supply chain to see if they are participating in these practices. Anyone found to be violating our ethics code must be terminated from their contract immediately. If you suspect anything like this, immediately inform your manager or the corporate social responsibility team, CSR team at idemia.com. And if you want to know more, be sure to check the section in the ethics charter on respectful relationships. And that's it for this lesson. Thank you so much for your time.